Attorney General Pam Bondi announced that the Department of Justice has filed a civil lawsuit against the state of Maine. The lawsuit alleges that Maine's policies allowing transgender girls and women to compete in female sports violate Title IX, a federal law prohibiting sex-based discrimination in federally funded education programs. This legal action follows President Trump's February executive order titled Keeping Men Out of Women's Sports, which mandates that Title IX be interpreted to restrict participation in female sports to individuals assigned female at birth. The administration contends that Maine's stance discriminates against cisgender female athletes by allowing transgender athletes to compete in girls' sports. Maine Governor Janet Mills has pledged to vigorously defend the state's policies, framing the issue as a matter of states' rights and adherence to the rule of law. She argues that the federal government's actions represent an overreach into state governance. The Department of Justice is seeking a court order to prevent Maine from enforcing its current policies regarding transgender athletes, and is considering retroactively withdrawing federal funding from the state for past noncompliance. Attorney General Bondi indicated that similar legal actions might be pursued against other states, including California and Minnesota, that maintain policies allowing transgender athletes to compete in accordance with their gender identity. This lawsuit underscores the ongoing national debate over the participation of transgender individuals in sports and the interpretation of federal anti-discrimination laws. Attorney General Pam Bondi, under the Trump administration, announced a federal civil rights lawsuit against the state of Maine. The lawsuit is centered around Title IX, a federal law passed in 1972 that bans sex-based discrimination in education programs or activities that receive federal funding, including school sports. The DOJ claims that Maine's policies, which allow transgender girls and women, those who were assigned male at birth but identify as female, to compete in female school sports teams, violate Title IX. The federal government's argument. Bondi and the DOJ argue that allowing transgender girls to compete in female sports is unfair to cisgender, non-trans, female athletes, potentially affecting opportunities like scholarships or titles. The federal interpretation of Title IX should be limited to biological sex assigned at birth, not gender identity. Maine's approach dilutes protections that Title IX was originally intended to provide for girls and women. This move is backed by an executive order signed by Trump in February 2025 titled Keeping Men Out of Women's Sports. This order directs federal agencies to treat Title IX as only applying to biological females. Maine's position. Governor Janet Mills and Maine state officials have pushed back hard, saying their policies are about inclusion and respecting students' identities. The federal government is overstepping its authority and interfering in state-level education policies. Maine will fight the lawsuit and continue to stand by transgender students' rights. What the lawsuit seeks. The DOJ is asking the courts to issue an injunction stopping Maine from allowing transgender girls to participate in girls' sports, possibly revoke or block federal education funding from Maine for being non-compliant with the administration's interpretation of Title IX. Bondi has also signaled that other states with similar policies, like California, Minnesota, and Massachusetts, could face similar legal action. Why this matters? This lawsuit is part of a larger national debate on transgender rights vs. women's athletic fairness. How federal laws like Title IX should be interpreted in modern contexts. States' rights vs. federal mandates. Critics argue that this is a politically motivated culture war move, while supporters say it's about protecting fairness in women's sports. In a move that has sent shockwaves through the political and legal world, Attorney General Pam Bondi stood before reporters and cameras this week to announce a sweeping lawsuit against the state of Maine, accusing it of violating federal civil rights law by allowing transgender girls and women to compete in female sports programs. At the heart of the case lies Title IX, a landmark law enacted over 50 years ago to guarantee equal access and opportunities for women in federally funded education programs. While it has long been a cornerstone of progress for women in sports, the law is now at the center of a heated national debate over how sex and gender should be defined, and whether transgender identity is protected under its umbrella. Bondi, flanked by DOJ officials, cited a recent executive order signed by former President Donald Trump titled, "Keeping Men Out of Women's Sports." This directive calls on all federal agencies to interpret Title IX based solely on biological sex at birth, excluding gender identity from its protections. According to the administration, Maine's inclusive policies, which allow transgender athletes to participate in sports in alignment with their gender identity, are not just unlawful, but deeply unfair to cisgender female athletes. "This is not about politics," Bondi said at the press conference. "This is about protecting the integrity of women's sports and ensuring that young girls don't lose out on scholarships, championships, and opportunities because of unfair competition." The lawsuit aims to block Maine's policies, arguing that by allowing transgender athletes in girls' sports, the state is discriminating against biologically female athletes. The DOJ is also threatening to withhold federal education funding, which could have major financial consequences for Maine's school districts and colleges.